distinguished and experienced panel of leaders. Let me start with Dr. Deepak Sharma, MD of the Indian subsidiary of leading American MNC, has over 30 years of experience spanning business leadership, operations, and market development. His perspective reflects the practical realities of scaling businesses and connecting India operation with global objective. We also have with us Mr. Sanjeev Agrawal, who has over 20 years of expertise across taxation, custom, finance, and regulatory matters. He brings deep insight into how tax and regulatory consideration shape commercial and cross-border decisions. We are also joined by Ms. Deepika Arora, who brings more than 20 years of experience across business leadership, sourcing, operations, and market expansion. She offers a country level perspective on India market dynamics, organizational alignment, and diverse priorities, with a focus on sustainable growth and agile decision making. This is an 1 hour panel discussion with the last 5 to 6 minutes reserved for Q&A session. We encourage you to post your questions in the chat box at any time during the webinar and we'll take them up towards the end. With that, I would like to invite Shubhruto to take the discussion forward. Shubhruto, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shweta, and thank you to all the panelists here. Thanks to Deepika, Deepak, and Sanjeev for coming and joining us for this session. Today's session is quite important, as we all know that India Control Tower, what the headquarters should know about India, and India being a dynamic economy, it is day by day increasingly becoming more sophisticated, and therefore global corporations who have subsidiaries in India must know as to what's happening in their Indian organization. That is extremely important. So without going too much into any further detail on this subject matter, let me straight away start with the questions. My first question will be to Deepika, to you. How does the global corporations view India, and has this changed because of the foreign trade agreements, the free trade agreements rather, the FTAs that has been signed by India recently with the EU, also with the UK and other countries, and more are there on the pipeline. So what do you feel? How are global organizations viewing India now after this recent developments over the last 12 to 15 months?
Yep. Thank you, Subroto. That's a fantastic place to start. What I would say is that India has always been seen as a place with tremendous potential, especially for smart solutions, for low cost options that can be scaled, because typically a solution that would come from India would be tested in such a complex environment that it would be very robust for global use. So this has always been a given about India. What has gotten added to that, partly as a result of events of the last decade, is India's importance as a place for de-risking supply chains, for resilience in supply chains, when the dependency in one or two geographies has been very extremely exposed. And then, the FTAs represent a very strong intent to open up to the world, a trust in, free trade. We have had protectionist tendencies in the past, but this is like a very strong signal to the world that we are open for business and we are willing to work and compete in global markets in both directions, offer our own market, but also compete with the world to sell our products to them. So that's definitely a big shift that is getting noticed. There's a tremendous amount of interest in coming to India. With the new demand, what that kind of puts a spotlight on is how ready are we to then absorb all this interest.
Great. In fact, you put it very rightly. These FTAs work both ways, and there's a lot of interest post these FTAs, the 2-3 major ones that we have signed and concluded. So a lot of interest from, especially the European Union, the UK, and other countries. Deepak, I'd sort of come to you now. and pose the same question as to how global organizations, especially one which wherein you are currently engaged, and we see a lot of traction there, and the free trade agreements. How is your global headquarters looking at it, and through it, how is it looking at India?
Subrata, first of all, I would like to thank Piccadilly ASA for creating this platform. This is a magnificent platform wherein we are able to interact with people in the industry and share our views. This question is very dear to me because this is a very fundamental question for any foreign company to come into country and then establish the office. So good part about the recent trade agreements is that it is proving out that India is just not being looked at, a market to sell, or a low cost country as it was known for last 10 years or 15 years. And coming from automotive background in my a part of my career, I know how globally India and BRIC nations were looked at. So the point is that now India has grown. It is going beyond these basic premises for which foreign companies used to look at India, and that has well got proven in last, I would say, 18 months, wherein over and above the historical trade agreements, there have been newer trade agreements which have come into play. Uh, we have always heard about trade agreements which were done at ASEAN level, or say SAFTA or AFTA, but that then evolved into trade agreements which happened over last 6 years. Uh, New Zealand, Oman, Australia, UAE. So it has been evolving. And the best part we have seen in recent times, I would say a little more than 12 months, as you mentioned, that we have a trade agreement with UK, European Union, and EFTA, which is European Free Trade Association. So this is opening up doors for companies to come in India, for India to have more exports out of the place. So it is taking India to a different pedestal. That's my view on this.
True. Fantastic. In fact, what I see is there is a pattern to it. There is a so as they say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So India is actually taking this to a level which was never done before. To, as you rightly said, New Zealand, Australia, US, of course, is the major one. So the fact of the matter is that India is spreading the basket. Where the need arises, India can take it from there, and of course, opening its markets to others. Now, Sanjeev, if I were to get a short perspective from you on this particular one, from the automotive industry point of view, or general industry point of view, what do you feel these FTAs have done to how people from abroad see India, and the willingness of India to go global? I would rather put it that way.
Sure, Subrata. Thank you very much for inviting me to this interesting webinar. Really appreciate this. Now, as far as the economic situation and economic transformation of India is concerned, you said correctly. It is not the only one egg in the basket. It's a multiple sector which is driving today the India story. So what we see is there are multiple kind of reforms which have happened in the recent past, including the FTAs and the trade deals with various countries and various combination of countries. The tax reforms, the manufacturing incentives, our infrastructure, growth and technology. These all have actually accelerated this entire growth path. And of course, the trade policy diversification is really critical these days. So a lot of bilateral FTAs that we see in the recent past is actually opening up a huge market to the India, to the Indian businesses. And what we see is, and just share with you a little data. As of now, in financial year 2026, the services represented about 48% of the India's total exports, which is really, really phenomenal. And while within these services, the telecommunication, computer, IT services, these kind of services are already almost half of those services exports. So, once this market opens up, there will be, I would see completely, floodgate sort of situation will open up. So, of course, the overseas investors and headquarters can't miss this opportunity of looking at India as an invest destination. That's how I see it, Subrata.
Great. To carry forward from what you just said, that global investors and global corporations cannot miss this opportunity to invest in India, to look at India in a very different way. And proof is that there are 7 agreements more to be signed in the next few months, and India is aggressively working on that. Let's change this topic slightly, and with this background, let me ask Deepak the next question, which is Deepak, as the organization scale in India, which or what helps local and global leadership stay aligned? Because we discussed how India is being viewed from abroad. Now, what should these global organizations uh, sort of do to see that the local and the global leadership, the local management, the global management stay always aligned? Because that's very important.
So it is prudent that India is playing an important role in global market, and it is obvious that things will get scaled up, and especially for the MNCs who have tasted India through a pilot project or a small office, they understand they are reaping the benefits and they are looking at expansion. So this question of what brought you here will not take you to your future objectives. So you have to really structure yourself as you scale in India, and scaling is really possible and happening. So the business model and the governance structure has to be modeled around what is it that you are trying to do in India. The one big change which is coming in the country is through, service centers or global competency centers. uh, India has got labor arbitrage, and people have been encashing that. We have heard over last 2 decades, BPOs, KPOs uh, getting stronger, and then came engineering services or services center, and slowly and gradually all these things got matured to global competency centers, wherein rather than companies coming and subletting work to Indian companies for BPO, KPO, now they are trying to put their own global competency center. And this has been possible because India has a fabulous IT infrastructure. English speaking young manpower is available, and we have seen that a lot of companies from various sector, if I just try to recollect, it can be Schneider, it can be Boeing, it can be Thales, Safran, different industry you touch and you will see that their GCCs have come in and are scaling up. So coming back to the point of as it scales up, what should the global leadership do is all about governance structure to be modified to what you are now scaling up to, and then ensuring that the business model and governance models are up to date, looking at the scale you have reached, because financial design support may need a different perspective to someone who is trying to put an R&D center or a manufacturing hub. So that's my take on this.
Yeah. So, Sanjeev, if I sort of come straight to you and ask you, what are the 2, 3 points that you think are very important for local to align with global, in the sense that the local decision making, right? The governance structure in India, the regulatory structure in India, it's ever dynamic. And the fact that ultimately certain decisions will have to be taken because Indian management would understand the India market, and therefore it's the responsibility of the Indian management to also educate the global management about the Indian market and its intricacies. And therefore, how do you feel the two marriages can happen seamlessly so that, if not 100%, and that can never be in a situation like we're talking of global and Indian, but what keeps them uh, bound together in one common path of growth for their organizations in India?
So, Subrata, the key in my experience is the alignment with global teams on how we keep the global teams or global leadership updated. Of course, global leadership needs a clear understanding of what are India's strategic importance and what are the local realities that they would want to understand. But it is up to us on the Indian team as well to fix up a format to update our global leadership. And the winning model is, to my mind, that global consistency with the local agility. So there has to be some bit of understanding on this. That of course, local agility is important. Local developments are important. So few points which to my mind are worth considering in this regard is that local regulatory framework voice should be in the global strategy, because the Indian laws are evolving very fast. In the last several few years, we have seen a lot of changes in the law, and the government has really made them workable to the businesses. And the legal jurisprudence is also evolving quite a lot. So that has to be as a framework in the global strategy. Now, the second point is the regular India global strategic dialogue. So how this escalation mechanism, what we sometimes call, is putting up in place. So focus not only on reporting numbers, but also on the market trends. What are the opportunities? What are the risks in the market? That should be talked about and very much openly discussed. And the last point, but not the least, to my mind, as of now, is measure the speed and as well as the compliance. Sometimes we say that governance is important, but it should not stop the business decision making. So we have to be very careful and having a proper balance between the two.
Great. So very well put, Sanjeev. Deepika, I want to know your perspective on this. If you can just add on to what Sanjeev and Deepak said. Um,
Uh,
yeah,
Yeah, I will actually fully echo what Sanjeev just said. I think it is very important, especially on the leadership level on both sides, global as well as local representation, to be very clear on who brings in what. So global should be what should come from the global organization. What are we focusing on? What are the ambitions? What are the guardrails? What is the risk tolerance of the organization? What is acceptable? What is a go, no go? That needs to come from global. So the consistency part, and how do we execute? That needs to be left local, and the local organization should be empowered enough to respond to realities fast, so that also the overall the organization doesn't feel that things have slowed down by moving to India because of the distance. The organization here fully understands what is expected and acts accordingly, but then acts fast and is not always looking over their shoulders for decisions. So that is what I would say should be the way to think about.
excellent, excellent. So I sort of take this from here and come to the third discussion point of this session. We all know India is a very diverse market. Now, what does global headquarters, and our topic is the India Control Tower, what HQ needs to know? What does global headquarters need to understand about India while making those strategic, operational, commercial, other decisions? What they need to understand about India, because they say that if you have not come to India, you don't know India. So you probably uh, have to come a few times to know about India, its ethos, its culture, food, way people work, the environment. So it's a different ball game altogether. So Sanjeev, I would like to start with you as to what are your thoughts on this.
So absolutely, you said very correctly that India should be visited often, and the if we make our global leadership visit India, and once they understand this market little bit, uh, they obviously, when they go back, they always have a better understanding about India. If you explain them later on the challenges of Indian market, they can appreciate well. So of course that is a big mantra, that the global leadership must visit India. That gives them a little better feeling as to how the Indian market is working out. Now, having said that, India is not just a large market. To me, it's a market that often develops little differently than other parts of the globe. So, my what I'm trying to say is that and India also leapfrog very fast. If you see in the automotive segment, uh, the automotive segment, we had this the emission norms called Bharat Standard 4 or Bharat Standard 6. So this is called a global norm BS4 to BS6. So India leapfrog from BS4 to BS6. There was no BS5 in India. So because of these developments in India, the auto manufacturers were able to actually pick up that growth to the next level so fast, that that clearly shows that how fast this Indian market can develop. Now, at the same time, we see the government, how the government is working out with the Indian industry. So the government time to time have also introduced the production linked incentives for creating manufacturing at a scale. And just to give you a little sense about some data here, the production linked incentives uh, uh, program actually covers, as of now, 14 strategic sectors, and it has more than 240,000 uh, lakh crore of investments in India, and also it has generated huge amount of jobs directly or and indirectly. So all I'm saying is this is a market which often develops differently. The local partnership and ecosystems are really critical, as we have been talking since beginning of this webinar. So the success actually depends on how we are working effectively with our suppliers, our dealerships, our distribution network partner, technology partners, and also at times it is important for our consultants, our business advisors also to give enough download to our global leadership and time to time interaction, so that the stakeholders are appropriately informed.
Good. Deepika, your views.
No, I think I will come at it more from a sourcing perspective. This is the kind of organization that I'm leading in India. And I think one aspect which is very important, as we have all said, is what do we mean when we say India is not one homogeneous market and it's not, there's a lot of diversity. What it means in practice is that we need to make sure that our stakeholders are not extrapolating their experiences from one type of industry or from one type of geography within India to the rest of India or to the next decision. So we need to be a little bit mindful of that, and we need to enable that they see the differences and the difference in maturity. As an example, I mean, the maturity of a typical textile supplier in India versus a typical, handicraft supplier in India will be very different, and they need to understand that. Uh, and that's our job to make sure that they understand that. The second aspect is to be clear on where India offers value. We may not be world beaters in cost when it comes to very commoditized products or very generic products, but Indian suppliers, because they are not that huge in certain areas, can offer flexibility and the ability to customize, the ability to even offer competitive prices at small volumes. So those kind of unique value additions, it's important for us to be very aware of those and make sure that the global organization sees where our niches and where our unique value offering is. On the flip side, it is also important for us to make sure that we acknowledge our limitations and where we are still kind of work in progress. So, for example, the port infrastructure is India is not the same as any other country of our size or scale. We are on the way there, and we need to acknowledge that and then make sure that this is taken into account when expectations or planning is done with regard to anything from India. So it's kind of both ways, both the positives and also where we are not the same.
So very, very, very well said, Deepika. Deepak, quickly, your take on this particular aspect.
Subrata, I will answer it in two parts. One is looking at seeing India as a market. So I'll start with that. So obviously, it's not a simple one country. It is very diverse, as Deepika said. And I use an analogy of explaining India to anybody outside India is that you need to compare India with Europe. Like Sweden could be very different to France, but France, Spain, Italy could be very similar. So Punjab could be very, very different to Tamil Nadu, but they would be very similar, somewhere similar between Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala. So uh, our languages, our dialects, our food, our culture, our backgrounds are very diverse. So we also need to, the headquarters need to understand, and it is our duty to make them understand this diversity and how this can bring benefit to them, because a specific part of India may be more productive for a particular business model than another part. So um, Sanjeev said that the leadership should visit, and that is absolutely correct. Uh, Seeing is believing. So the more the subject matter experts and our leaders come to India, they form an opinion, and it is our duty from this side to ensure that we show the right things to them in small period time. And also we have to take India to them, so not necessarily they will have all the time to come in. So the more we can structure our pitch, the more we can collate data and get some examples, solidify our pitch with those, and have narrations taken to them, so can improve the connect, and that will help the global headquarters to have a better view on India. So this is where I am seeing India as a market, but touching on supply chain perspective also, again talking about the diversity, as certain commodities may benefit, certain commodities may not benefit. Not everything can be bought from every part of the world. So we have to, headquarters have to understand what is it that India has to offer. Again, it comes to that we need to bring those value propositions up to the surface for them to understand. So from supply chain perspective also, seeing the contrasts in India, the diversity in India, we need to sort of encash the diversity to the benefit of the business model. Last point I would say, and touching on Sanjeev was saying that resilience is important, and yes, somewhere global headquarters have to understand that India is a complex fabric. On one side it has advantages, but then there are certain challenges. So empowering the local leadership, if they understand that empowering the local leadership will help the company handle good governance, but at the same time have a resilient organization set up in the country. So these things have to be kept in mind for the global headquarters for encashing India for in their benefit.
Great. Moving on, taking this a little bit further, what do you think? And I put this question to Deepika to you first. What should be a growth supportive model, right? Growth supportive control and governance framework model look like to give the global headquarters confidence about India, right? And by India, I mean Indian organizations which they head globally. So, what is the framework do you see will give them the confidence?
I think I would keep it simple in the sense that I would think about what is it that someone sitting thousands of miles away wants to know on a real-time basis, and um or maybe at least close to a real-time basis, and gives them sufficient transparency and sense of safety visibility on what is going on, gives them a sufficient sense of control. So it is about, so in our context it would be about how can they get transparency around the supplier onboarding processes, how can they get transparency around the compliance aspects, whether it is supplier compliance or our own compliance in the office, how can they get transparency around potential delivery performance or potential risks, what is coming forward, what is happening locally. So simple, dashboards, control towers around these kind of measures, updated at a reasonable frequency, so that relevant departments in the headquarters can always have a sense of what is going on in India without having to depend on digging out a lot of information. That is how I would kind of.
Deepak, your take?
See, yeah, and I will add to what Deepika just said. Uh, See, one is that we have to look at what is the headquarter expecting out of us. And they will have attention span when it comes to reporting. So, and they are quite used to certain formats. So one thing is important is that we pick up the standard templates and the MIS which they are regularly viewing and they are habitual of, and we need to adapt because governance framework, until unless it is explained in a language which can be understood in short time, you lose the attention of your leaders. So that is one aspect. And in general, I think coming from India perspective, uh, good companies like Baker Tilly ASAs are there to help MNCs put up a governance model and reporting structure. But we have to look on certain weaknesses in India, wherein we need to complement our governance and control framework. I'll just give you an example. And coming from supply chain and lens, we are not very good in identifying risks and mitigating them. So the more we are able to identify risks and mitigate them and present them to our headquarters in the frameworks, the more they will have confidence that we are taking care of the risks. And project management is another aspect wherein I feel that whenever we build up relationships in the country, we need to educate our partners, we need to educate our suppliers that why it is important, how it is important, handhold them, and somewhere connect the headquarters by talking in that language, which helps in presenting a better outlook in a control framework. And we know that India is really has got digitized. In fact, in many parts we are ahead than many, and especially the scale at which we operate, the population and everything. So we have that advantage also, which can be used in generating data, collating information, and making it transparent in our governance model. So that's my take and view.
That's a very important point, Deepak. The last one that you said, collating the data and then presenting that in a way, because India, the governance framework is, and it's, as I said, I started the discussion with the word dynamic. We have the Personal Data Protection Act coming in, the GST evolving over the last 10 years, the new labor codes. So the it depends on it. Actually the onus is on the Indian organization, the Indian subsidiary, to actually inform, as Deepika rightly said, to inform the headquarters what is the impact of those changes on the industry, on the corporation that you are working in. That's extremely important. Given that, taking that into consideration, Sanjeev, I would like to have a quick view from you on this aspect.
So I think a lot of is already said, but to my mind, the periodic governance structure, that has to be pretty strong. And the early warning mechanism, what we say, needs to be set up so that the global leadership is aware of it. The real-time dashboard, I don't know whether that is needed or not, but as Deepak mentioned, that risk-based controls we should establish so that they are not caught by surprise. Nobody is actually interested in looking at surprises. So there has to be very clear thought on that. Clear decision rights, therefore can be developed with this. And you mentioned very correctly, India is developing very fast. We see the GST, the goods and services tax, how it has increased the tax base of the taxpayers. When we started with GST in 2017, I recall that there were about 6.5 million taxpayers in that year. Now we have 16.5 million taxpayers by 2026. So these are corporate taxpayers, or the individuals who are paying taxes through businesses. So all I'm saying is that the economic movement, the taxation environment is changing pretty fast. Therefore, early warning mechanism and the risk-based controls are really, really very important.
Right, and like that, when you mentioned, Sanjeev, that the headquarters never want a surprise. I have been working with various multinationals, and the one thing that I get to hear from both the global and local management is that the headquarters don't want any surprise.
Yep.
Tell us beforehand what is the environment like, the governance framework like, and the impact on it. So that's a very important point that you had put in. Again, taking this forward, my next question will be to Deepak. Deepak, how can headquarters get a connected view of India, right? Rather than, you mentioned this also, taking bits and pieces from every function and then forming their own view. How can this be addressed, Deepak?
Subrata, that is very challenging actually. That's not easy. Uh, but let me share my own pitch, what I, not my own tool which I use. So whenever I'm uh, traveling to headquarters, I do a lot of stakeholder management. So what happens is, to give a holistic view of the country, you need to give a narration about the what is happening on ground to variety of stakeholders, which sometimes can't just be done formally. So typically what I will do is I'll always have my own presentation deck, which is for the leadership, which will have a lot of backup. But whenever I would be separately meeting the function heads, and they will be myopic to what they want to see from their functional aspects, I'll say, I just wanted to show you what I showed to the leaders, and they get interested. Okay. And then I try to paint the bigger picture, wherein amplifying as what they want to say, but then complement it with the overall, parts of the jigsaw puzzle as how they are fitting in together. Because one, that way we are able to tell them how the whole thing is happening and how all the gears are working together, and many a times the functions actually respond back and say, Deepak, I can help you there, I can help you here, complementing this thing for the other function. So stakeholder management and making people aware of what you're doing, and you have to go a little out of the standard practices of very formal meetings, informal chats over tea. So if your pitch is clear, if your thoughts are clear, what you want to communicate, it hardly depends on whether you're getting a formal or an informal. As far as you're getting time with your stakeholders, you should be able to paint the bigger picture. So this is how I see it, and I do it, because every function, if it would be purchasing, they will only look at what savings can I do. If it is production, it would be more about how would I ensure that deliveries are happening. If it is leadership, it would be what's new. The legal will be always have something to say. The finance So you have to join them up. You need to energize them with some examples. So that's my take on presenting a connected view of India. Either these guys are coming in or you are going to the headquarters.
So what you're saying is all those components together should be, because each might have impact on the other, should be the global view should be presented before the global board. Uh,
Yeah.
Sanjeev, your take on this one.
So I think one India view is really important. But having said that, the organizations sometimes are so big that giving one report may not be practically feasible. So to my mind, we should use common definitions, common data sources, and try to give overview of, let's say, finance and operations are being discussed. Then what is the strategy on sales and compliance side? We should try to knit the other aspects also in overviews which are given to the global leadership. And some external signals should also be factored in, like policy changes, what are the consumer trends, competition, macroeconomic indicators. These are sometimes important insights. So move from reporting to the inside is something which I would say is also a mantra.
Great. That was really superb. Yeah. So, Deepika, your turn. Your views on this one.
I will agree with what Deepak and Sanjeev said, that uh, headquarters is not a monolith. So every function has their own perspective with which they will, want to see the India picture. I would say it is our job in the local leadership to ensure the connectedness, in the sense that if I see something moving in one direction, what does it mean for legal? What does it mean for finance? If it has consequences for more than one department, to kind of translate it proactively in their language, in the way they, what does it mean for you and what do I need from you? So it's important for us to be mindful of that connectedness, that it's not enough to just update the most obvious function, but can it have consequences elsewhere? So to see that in the interrelationships ourselves, and then to have the messaging more action focused, not just as a reporting way, but more, what does it mean for, why are you telling me this? What do you need from me? To be clear about that also.
Absolutely. In fact, you have put it. What do I need from you, and how do I see it, and what are your views of it, and then I'll give my view. So, I think that's put very, very nicely. Since we are discussing this, my next question is more pointed. Sanjeev, I come to you first. How should tax, customs, regulatory become part of business planning rather than an afterthought?
Right, Subrata. So I would say that tax and compliance is has become a strategic function, because if you really see and look at India, uh, if the goods are imported and used for the businesses, that the customs duties are really high. Uh, the local taxes are also considerably, large piece of your business. So one has to be on the toes to ensure that appropriate tax credits are utilized, so that there is no leakages of tax within the organization. Uh, Depending upon the business where you are, the cost-effective supply chain can also be secured through various mechanisms that Government of India offers today. And we must appreciate that the government is continuously working towards the taxpayer-friendly business environment, and is giving taxpayers a lot of mechanism, like we have advanced rulings where you can get the certainty of a transaction as to how this transaction will be taxed. And it is not only possible in direct taxes, it is also possible in indirect taxes, also in the customs. Now the speed of resolution is also improving year by year, as the industry is giving feedback to the government, and government is proactively working on those aspects. If we really see, Subrato, in the last uh, fiscal year, there is a dispute resolution mechanism which is called as bilateral advanced pricing agreement, bilateral APAs or unilateral APAs with the taxpayers of the overseas entities. So for the related party transactions, there is a mechanism to resolve your tax disputes, and there has been a tremendous growth in the outcome of those programs. It is appreciated by industry very much. So far since the start of this program about 6-8 years back, there are about 1,000 plus agreements have been signed. Last year alone, there were 200 plus agreements signed. There is a no government has also acknowledged that the Income Tax Act, which has been running in our country, was quite dated. So they have also introduced a new Income Tax Act very recently. And what this means to us is that they have tried to simplify various provisions. They have tried to actually remove those clauses which are becoming so difficult for us as a taxpayer to interpret as to how it should be read. So you also mentioned earlier about this digital personal data protection act. So all these things are actually running very fast and giving a lot of certainty to the taxpayer. The important is that government is also inviting industry, and the government of India is aware of that fact that there could be some issues where industry wants them to be handled differently, because those checks and balances might be quite dated. So the dialogue with government is working pretty well. If you have a reasonable resolution to the issues, or you have a good proposal which you can explain to the government, and it is these proposals are not in a way abused by the industry at a large, the government is very happy to implement that. So all I'm saying is the framework is actually really getting investor friendly day by day. India has the biggest opportunity of 1 trillion exports, so this is something which the taxpayers also wants to optimize, and the government is also quite supportive. This is all I can say.
True. Deepika, you want to add to this?
I think the only thing I would say, you brought in a very good perspective of what the laws are. I think what organization like ours need to be mindful of is the planning happens early for the scale and size, for the entry. But I think what is important, especially in a country like India, is maybe it will be more helpful to have a roadmap for how the regulatory requirements will evolve as we grow in size, and what will that mean, because at times otherwise it can feel like there will be moments in scaling up where the cost of regulatory compliances will grow faster than the revenues, and it can feel like what did we do here, did we choose a wrong structure? So it's better not to have, like we discussed earlier, that as a surprise, and it's better to have a roadmap on we can
Yeah, Deepika, we have lost you for a moment. So while Deepika joins in, Deepak, your views on this? I'll take Deepika's view once I'll ask her to finish her sentence, but your view, Deepak?
Yeah, looking at the time also, I'll just take 30 seconds on this. Uh, Already, it's Sanjeev's area and he has beautifully put the views. Uh, Technically, what I will do is make my model resilient, because customs, regulation, taxations can come as a surprise. So, we have to have, again, it goes back to risk identification. So I'll have the financial taxation risks put in my business model. Because for example, if we are exporting from India, and if you look at if it has been going to US, you look at what has been happening over last 1 year, the tariffs have been moving from up and down from 10%, resonating 10% to 50%. Now, these certain things will be beyond your imagination, but as far as we are able to identify and cover them in our business model and start optimizing them as we go forward, because maybe at the start you might have a very higher risk, because if we don't optimize the risk, then your business model may not be attractive also. So that's my take on building the
Very,
tax customs and regulations in the business model.
very correctly said. It has to be robust. And Deepika, you wanted to finish where you a very important point which Deepak also now finished, that as to the a sort of a roadmap with some kind of certainty that the Indian control tower should give to headquarters. So if you want to finish your view, you can do that.
Yeah, but that was pretty much what I was saying, that it's, it's not enough to be prepared for the early phase, but it's important to be prepared for what comes after as we grow and as, what the 10-year down the line ambition is.
Right. One very one. This is I am thinking whether I should take this question or not, but it gives me a little kick that I must take this because it's dear to me. If you were to present a global MIS, rather I put it this way, Indian MIS to the global board, uh, what that should look like, what five things that should have in it as a must thing in the MIS. There's a five pillars or five towers that it should have. Over to you first to Deepika, because we lost you for a few seconds. First,
Okay.
back to you, and then we come to others.
Uh, Great. I would say the five areas, I mean, since we are a sourcing office, so the first would be the sourcing performance, landed cost competitiveness. How is that looking? The second would be the performance aspect. How are we doing on what we already have? How is the capacity utilization and the outlook on that? The third would be around compliance and readiness, around compliance, around sustainability, which is an important topic. Then the fourth would be the external market outlook, around how the raw material availability, prices are developing, and so on. Any factors affecting that, including crop outlooks and things like that from India. And the fifth one would be the pipeline for how can we grow, what is the risk outlook, the whole PESTLE analysis of political risk and economic risk, environmental risk, and all that. So that's the five areas I would say.
Perfect. Deepak?
There is no one answer to it. It depends on what whether you're selling or buying, what type of commodity you are handling. Is it a secondary market you are playing in or a tertiary market you are playing in? But all said, if I have to pick top five, obviously top line one, bottom line two, with a generated view. Third would be how the things are moving. So my next 30, 60, 90, right? And all these things are possible through people. So a perspective on what's going on with people, training, retention, and everything. And if I have to pick a fifth one, I will say what help I need from headquarters.
Right.
But
Very well
just
put.
this is a monthly thing, but I strongly recommend that we should have 6 months, if not 1 year, a pestle presented to headquarters, updated every 6 months or a year.
Right. Sanjeev?
Yeah, actually, I would just, in the interest of time, just take 10, 15 seconds and quickly. No, I would not say five things, but the theme should be as to what has happened, what does it mean for us, and what decision is required from the headquarters. What are we looking from them? That should be clear. We should not be just posing the results to them that, look, this is the issue, this is the problem, but there should be a clear cut, statement that what is required from them. So I would say the headquarters should know where India stands, where it is heading, and what could change the trajectory of Indian businesses. So I think this is how the entire modeling can be done for our reporting.
Right. That's a very important point as to what they want and what this. So, as they say that when you started in India, the situation was different. Over the years, situation is different. So, what you wanted then and what you want now can change. And with all the regulatory and governance and other aspects playing in, it can be a chess game. So, yeah, very well put. All three of you panelists have very well said. I have now completely run of time, but yes, I have two very quick questions about 30 seconds each for each one of you. what should be that one principle that global headquarters should follow when managing India? Just one principle. Each one of you, maybe 10 seconds or 20 seconds. So maybe Deepak,
Oh,
you?
I can start. Yeah. So as we said, like, it's no more just a sales market or a sourcing hub. So headquarter can look at the new opportunities like GCCs, and especially because of the trade agreements, what benefit probably can come to depending on the organization, which country it is originating from, and utilizing digitization levels in India. So have the right leadership in the country, try to focus on these areas to see how these can be encashed.
Good. Deepika?
I would say absolute clarity on the priorities, because that makes sure that we are not spending time and energy in the wrong direction. In the current volatile environment, what this also means is a very robust mechanism for making sure that any shifting priorities get communicated quite fast, and there is no lag in translating them to the local organizations. So I would say those two things are key.
Great. Sanjeev?
So, as we have been discussing it over the last 1 hour, India is actually moving from make in India to design in India, manufacturing in India, add value in India, and also exports to the world. So, this is the kind of progressive state we are in, and therefore, I would say that the headquarter entities should trust India, empower India, and also learn from what is going on in India. I think this is how I want to summarize and answer your question.
Great. I think we have actually come to the finished our given timeline for this session. I would like to summarize a bit, maybe before I hand it over to Shweta. Uh, what you all said is critically important for the global headquarters to know about the India Control Tower. One thing that stays with me in all these observations, these viewpoints, is the fact that your regulatory and governance is changing. It's important to have a predictive model, not too many changes, so that your entire business structure, the taxes, and the laws around it will have a different impact. All those things need to be made aware of. And also, the speed at which India is moving ahead. Uh, it's for us to inform or keep headquarters updated as to how best we can sort of catch up, and what is it that we need to do. I think this is a sort of a thing that I is a takeaway for from this session, that one must be aware and look at India not from a very isolated angle, uh, look at India from a global scheme of things, and give the local management the power to take decisions. However, keep the control through the visibility that you need to take global decisions which have impact not only for India, but maybe for the global organization as well. So, with that, I would hand this over to Shweta. Shweta, over to you.
Thank you, Shubhrato. I have two questions from the audience that I would like to read, and you can take this up. First is, the question has been asked from Arun Prakash Thomas. His question is, does labor arbitrage still an advantage for India when global HQ are investing in AI and automation where dependency on labor is reduced?
Interesting
Yeah,
question. Who would want
yeah,
to take this?
I think that a phrase I used, I think in one of the So let me take this. So obviously AI is one part of the game, not everything. So we have secondary and tertiary sectors, we have manufacturing, we have services, and all sort of things. Um, AI is helping us in automation, in analyzing data, in interpreting. But what about designing the products? What about creating new technologies? What about creating new IPs? So there are R&D centers being put up in India as under GCCs, and engineering centers which are being put under GCCs. So obviously we do not know how AI will unfold. It is very similar to early 2000s when we had this computer come in and disrupt. It was a complete disruption as we did not know how it will pan out. Same thing is with AI. But labor arbitrage remain when it comes to manufacturing, when it comes to things which still AI is not able to capture or do. So that's my take on it. But yes, how it will pan out, we don't know.
There's one more question. India is still behind on being global manufacturing hub, unlike service sector, despite PLI schemes. How can the government augment manufacturing sector?
Good question again.
What is the question? Last part of it. Can you please repeat?
How can the government augment manufacturing sector?
Okay.
So what Sanjeev, the question is, given the so much efforts and the free trade agreements and MSME push and all that and exports, uh, how can the government augment this, the manufacturing sector? So while services are proceeding at a great pace last 20 years, how can the government augment the manufacturing push? That's the question.
I think it's a very well put question, and sometimes industry representatives also struggle with this situation that in spite of best efforts, the manufacturing growth is not seen as per the desired speed. So that is obviously a big challenge as of now. As I mentioned, the government is doing their best, their best efforts, and the PLI scheme, the various other states, they are also giving their incentives. Also, there are sectoral focus on by the government. You might have seen the last union budget of India. There, they also focused on advanced technological development things. The government also came up with green technology related incentives. So the government is doing their best to identify those strategic areas, strategic sectors where they can look for specific concessions and encourage the entrepreneurs to come forward and put in investments. But I know this is an area where the industry and government has to work together. As I mentioned in the beginning, in the during my explanations, that it is also the responsibility of industry to come forward and suggest the way outs to deal with the current situation. Government would be happy to implement that, but sometimes what we have seen is that not enough inputs are coming to the government. So it is our responsibility also to keep that dialogue going on, and I'm sure there will be results to it.
I think if I can just add for 10 seconds something to this, which is that we are all aware of the limitations around manufacturing. But what is a very interesting development from the FTAs is that markets that are already mature in manufacturing, uh, um, uh, industries from there are very much interested in bringing their maturity to India, setting up plants in India. So maybe we can, as we use the word leapfrog on this also faster than we think.
True, true, true. That's probably that's the thing that should happen, Deepika, because many multinational corporates across the world are expressing a lot of interest through the FTAs to come and then manufacture, do the Make in India initiative, and then produce from India and then export from India. We already
So, brother,
see,
one
yeah,
point I don't
Deepak,
want to miss is like the geopolitical situation is giving us this opportunity of China plus one.
yeah.
So, maybe we can't compete with China prices the way they subsidize it things internally. but we have this opportunity because people do not want to put all their eggs in the same basket. So even at a cost higher than China, people are ready to buy from alternate markets. So government should promote and try to engage that and boost, vitalize the industry for engagement.
Agreed.
So,
Absolutely.
we are running out of time. With that, we come to the end of our conversation. Discussion brought valuable perspectives and real world experience to the table. Before we close, I would like to thank our moderator, Mr. Shubhruto Bose, and our distinguished speakers, Dr. Deepak Sharma, Mr. Sanjeev Agarwal, and Ms. Deepika Arora, for sharing their time, expertise, and valuable insight with us today. Thank you to everyone who joined us for being a wonderful audience. We'll be sharing the webinar recording and summary today of today's discussion with all the attendees shortly. We hope you found our session insightful, and we look forward to welcoming you to our future webinars. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you to all panelists and viewers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.